With Kenya accounting for, get this, almost 5% of the world's cases of FGM, an indicator the United Nations launched in a global campaign today to end FGM.
As part of the global effort to end female genital mutilation, by the year 2030, the United Nations Chief Ban Ki-moon called for education, not mutilation.
Since 2007, more than a dozen countries have enacted measures to tackle FGM. More than 950 legal cases have been prosecuted, and today nearly all countries where it is prevalent outlaw the practice. Let us continue our campaign to empower these girls and so many others. Let us shift the focus away from mutilation to education. Let us make a world where FGM stands for Focus on Girls' Minds. How about this? FGM stands for Focus on Girls' Minds.
Female genital mutilation remains traditional in many African countries as well as in South Asia and the Middle East. The practice involves the removal of all or part of the external female genitalia. The ancient ritual, often shrouded in secrecy and widely condemned as a serious violation of women's rights, causes many health problems which can be fatal. Some girls bleed to death or die from infections, while others die later in life from childbirth complications.
When I was a teenager and I was on my path to become a woman, for me it was a very tough time. The path was really full of hurt and suffering because I had the physical pain and I also had the psychological pain because, for me, not knowing who I was becoming, because I felt that I would never become a woman, because I had something missing and I wasn't worth it. It took a lot away from what I could achieve as a teenager and what I could realize as a teenager. So I lost my identity when I went through FGM. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what was my place in society. I didn't know how strong I could be, because cutting me was telling me that I'm not good enough. What was I? So I had all these questions, and
I went through FGM when I was 8 years old, and that to me is a scar that I live to stand and talk to people about it. So it's that is in me, that passion that is in me, that pain that I went through, that I want to stand up and tell the world that FGM is not something that we need to talk about, but to end it like right now.
Back home, Elgeyo Marakwet County, Samburu, Kajiado, Isiolo, Tharaka Nithi and Garissa are considered FGM hotspots, as the practice has been prevalent despite years of campaigns to put an end to the disturbing cultural practice. Largely viewed as a gross violation of child's rights and women's rights, civil activist groups are working hard to end the practice that has doomed many women to a lifetime of pain and health complications. According to the recently launched Kenya Demographic and Household Survey of 2014, at least 9.3 million girls and women in Kenya have undergone FGM. That is an alarming 6.64% of the estimated 140 million girls and women who have been cut worldwide. Figures that indicate that Kenya holds an unenviable sizable chunk of a practice the world is steadily growing weary of and is desperate to put in the past. The practice of female genital mutilation, also known as female genital cutting, is defined by the World Health Organization as any procedure that intentionally alters or causes injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. In 2012, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution to eliminate female genital mutilation by increasing education on the harms of the practice, strengthening healthcare support, and increasing advocacy in highly impacted areas. Trix Ingado, KTN News.
Some worrying statistics from Trix Ingada there, so let's understand this a little bit more. I'm joined by the Chief Executive Officer of Kenya's Anti-FGM Board, Jane Mwereru. Thanks for being with us on Bottomline East Africa. So, you know, it's outlawed in Kenya and in several other countries in the world. But what we're essentially trying to do is legislate what has been viewed as a cultural norm and rite of passage for years. How difficult is that?
Yvonne, let me first appreciate the fact that you've invited me to this studio so that we can really talk about FGM. And let me say that there are 29 countries in Africa where FGM is practiced, and Kenya is among them. There are legislations like we have the Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Act that was enacted in 2011. And really the bottom line was to ensure that this law is enforced to ensure that the girl child and the woman are protected against FGM. Really, when you talk about issues of culture, it is not easy. And FGM is a cultural practice, and people hold it very, very dearly. So really, when you try to convince people that they should not cut or practice FGM, in many cases you'll be met with a lot of backlash. And really, for us as a board, though there are many times that we have not been able to access, you know, we've met a lot of resistance. We still soldier on. It is not easy. Many at times when our officers and also the chiefs, who we work very, very closely, have been threatened because really, as I've said, this is a very emotive issue. And therefore what we do, our entry point is really to create awareness, you know, advocacy, so that we don't go and get the police to arrest them.
Right.
So we try our best first as a board to create awareness, and that is why the board was established.
Okay.
Then it is from there that now we tell them the law is there, we cannot break the law, and people must observe the law and it must be enforced.
All right, Jane, and you talk about an interesting approach, obviously, because, you know, the law against FGM is not like any other law, which is something that's generally agreed upon. Laws against theft, for example, or murder, you know, the law is the law, and, you know, that's sort of fairly easy to draw the line. This is what's right, this is what's wrong. So obviously your approach is different, like you're talking about. Tell us a little bit about that, because this is something you have to start, you know, to undo in people's minds, isn't it?
Thank you. Now, when the board was established, one of the mandate was actually to come up with programs that are going to accelerate the abandonment of FGM. And therefore, as a board, we sat down and said, yes, the law is there, but what do we do? So what we have done, we've come up with quite a number of programs. For example, we have programs for the community elders or the council of elders. We have programs for the youth. We have programs that is boys and girls separately. We have programs for the women that we talk to them. We have programs for the law enforcement officers, because really, when it comes to matters of the law, you cannot put all of them together. When you put, for example, men and women in one room to talk to them, they will not listen.
Absolutely.
They will not.
Yeah.
So what we do is that we become strategic, and we decide we are going to, for example, in Tharaka Nithi, where we have the Jorincheke, and talk to the Jorincheke, because they are the custodians of the law. And we hope that the Jorincheke will be able now to cascade the same information to the people that they take care of. We also go to schools and speak to the young girls, and we try to show them the effects of FGM and the way their lives can really be affected. And therefore, we ensure that everybody knows exactly what we are doing. For example, even we work very closely with teachers, because really, you know very well, Yvonne, that mtoto anasema, mwalimu alisema.
Yes.
So you know what the teacher says?
Kabisa.
It's like a gospel, it's
Truth. Yeah.
And therefore, we work very closely with the teachers, and we use now these teachers to also cascade the same message to the young kids.
Who
So
then take it back home and say the teacher
the
said.
teacher said.
Yeah, okay.
So when the mother is told the teacher said, now FGM is bad, there's hardly anything that the mother can do.
All right, so an interesting approach to this one. So talk to us a little bit about some of the successes you've seen since we outlawed FGM in Kenya, and also then some of the challenges that lie ahead.
Let me start by saying that so far so good, because we have seen the rate or the prevalence of FGM go down at least by 6% from 27 to 21. And to us, this is a success because, like I said, it is not easy to deal with culture that is really, embraced by the community. So we have seen that rate go down. Again, we have seen people that we thought, many circumcisers, by the way, they have given up the trade. And when we sometimes we have meetings with them, and they confess that really why they do it is why they used to do it, because now they're reformed, is because they didn't have an alternative.
Right. So do you help give them alternative sources of income?
What we do is that we link them with the government institutions that give small loans for microfinance.
Right.
For example, we have women.
The Women Enterprise Fund,
Empowerment Fund.
Yeah.
We have WEZO. We have the Youth Fund. You know, all those, we try to link them so that at least they do something different. The problem is that if you don't give them an alternative, this really becomes a challenge, because it's, what I want to tell you, it's a lucrative job. One girl cutting one girl, there are places that they charge even 1,000 shillings.
Okay.
So really,
and in the village, that's quite a substantial sum.
that is a lot.
And
of
they're
money.
cutting lots of girls, so
They are cutting lots of
cumulatively it
girls.
adds up.
Yes. And again, it's also an honor for one to be known to be a cutter.
Yeah.
You're a respected person of that
Wow.
community. So really, we have tried to ensure that even girls are empowered through knowledge. When you talk to them, really that is empowerment. And I'm glad that quite a number of girls have run away from this cut. There are quite a number of safe places that our partners, NGOs have established, and this is the places where the girls run to, and they're
For
given
alternative
counseling.
rites of passage.
For alternative,
Because
yes.
what you're trying to do is not completely remove that whole rite of passage, because the essence of it remains, moving from one phase of life to another. So it's offering an alternative to the cut.
Yes, in fact, what we say as a board, or what we tell the community, is that we respect culture, and therefore culture is good. The girls should be taught what adds value to their lives. Alternative. Teach them on how to grow to be a woman, how to take care of their family and the children, but do minus the cuts. Yes.
Okay.
So all those values, they are taught, they are taken through, but not the cuts.
All right.
That's
Finally,
okay.
Jane, there are some emerging, threats to the fight against FGM. As you know, once you outlaw something, then what happens is people tend to go underground. Now
Yes.
it's no longer done in the open.
Yes.
And you have some interesting stories about, interesting ways you're starting to see the cut happening now that it's been outlawed.
I'm telling you, there are many. And I want to start by what we are calling diaspora, where the girls are flown from outside, from the diaspora, and they are brought in, they are cut, and they are taken back after healing. It is happening, it is live. We are aware of that, and again, we have reported that to the relevant office, that is the police, and they are trying to do their own
That means that's
investigations.
quite lucrative. I mean, if girls are flying in from the UK to come and receive the cut, that's way beyond the 1,000 shillings that takes place in the village,
Definitely,
isn't it?
definitely, those ones, they pay as much as 5,000 shillings, you
Yeah,
can imagine.
okay.
And those are many, many girls.
Right.
Yes. So we also have the medicalization, where now, because the law is there and people are fearing the law, girls are being cut in the comfort of their homes, and they're not being cut by the circumcisers who are those dirty women. No. Nurses who are trained, they have also made it a business, and they go to the comfort of the homes of the girls, and they cut them from there, and they leave them to heal there. We are aware. We are working very closely with the Minister of Health to ensure that their licenses are revoked, because really that should not happen.
Where do you see this going, Jane, going forward? You've talked about some great successes. The rate has come down. But, we still are not doing very well. I mean, if you take a look at the statistics, we're contributing to the world. It's still appalling. So what more in this fight?
For me, I think what is important here is that the Anti-FGM board cannot fight this war alone. Really, it's for all of us. It's for me, Jane, for you, Yvonne, and everybody who understands the effect of FGM. And the different ways in which it contributes to the decline of the economy. If all of us really were to take it as our responsibility to ensure that this practice does not happen, I think we'll go far. Because as a board, we are just a very small board. And it is done, in fact, there's what we call the 17 hot counties, hotspot counties, where it is done in a major way. And those other, in fact, in every county it is done. So for us as a board, what we do is that we partner with like-minded people, we partner with stakeholders to ensure that all of us will team up to ensure that we create awareness, and and the girl child is protected.
Okay, thanks
Yes.
very much, Jane Moreru, who's the CEO of the Anti-FGM Board. And thanks, you certainly have a big fight ahead, but I'm sure you're up to the task.